Welcome to MarkGuy, where we explore self-improvement, motivation, habits, mindset. In today's episode, we're discussing the impact of feminism on marriage, when roles and respect collide. You know what no one tells you? The modern marriage isn't dying from lack of love, it's drowning in a sea of conflicting expectations. You're standing at the altar promising forever, while society whispers in both your ears that compromise is oppression and traditional roles are prison bars. The collision isn't between man and woman anymore. It's between two competing operating systems trying to run on the same hardware. Picture this scene. It's playing out in millions of homes right now. A man comes home after 12 hours of grinding, expecting some acknowledgement, maybe even appreciation. But instead, he walks into a cold war. She's scrolling through Instagram, double-tapping posts about queens who don't need kings, while he's standing there, paycheck in hand, wondering when providing became problematic. The dishes are in the sink not because anyone's lazy, but because doing them has become a political statement. Who moves first loses power. This isn't about chores. It's about the new mathematics of marriage, where every gesture gets calculated through the lens of equality, but the equation never balances. Let me paint you the real picture here. In 1970, married women made up 40% of the workforce. Today, it's over 70%. That's not the problem. The problem is that we changed the game, but kept the old scoreboard. Men are still measured by their ability to provide, but now they're also expected to split everything 50-50, emotionally available 24/7, while somehow maintaining that mysterious masculine edge that attracted her in the first place. Women fought for the right to have careers beautiful, necessary, overdue. But somewhere between the boardroom and the bedroom, many discovered that having it all means doing it all. And resentment started seeping through the cracks like water through old foundation. Here's where psychology gets brutal. The human brain runs on something called cognitive dissonance. When your beliefs clash with your reality, something has to give. Modern feminism sells the narrative that traditional gender roles are outdated, oppressive, restrictive. But biology doesn't read Twitter. Studies from the University of Cambridge show that despite 50 years of social progress, women still demonstrate preference for partners who earn more than them. Hypergamy isn't a social construct, it's neurological wiring. Meanwhile, men's brains still light up in the provider role, still seek respect through competence and contribution. So now you have two people trying to perform a dance where the music keeps changing mid-step. But here's where it gets darker. The respect dynamic has fundamentally shifted. In traditional marriages, respect flowed from role fulfillment he provided. She nurtured. Both were valued for their unique contributions. Now, respect has become conditional, constantly renegotiated, perpetually audited. She questions whether staying home with kids is settling. He questions whether his sacrifices even matter if she makes her own money. Every traditional gesture becomes suspect. Opening doors? Patronizing. Paying for dinner? Patriarchal. Wanting her to take his last name? Ownership. The very acts that once communicated love now require disclaimer statements. This creates what psychologists call intermittent reinforcement, the most addictive behavioral pattern known to human psychology. Sometimes traditional roles are okay. Sometimes they're oppressive. Sometimes masculinity is attractive. Sometimes it's toxic. You're essentially living in an emotional casino where the rules change every hand, but you keep playing because occasionally, just occasionally, you hit the jackpot of connection. That one night where everything clicks, where she melts into femininity, and you stand solid in masculinity. And for 3 hours, you remember why you fell in love. Then morning comes, and the negotiations resume. Phase 1 starts with subtle corrections. We need to talk about emotional labor. I shouldn't have to ask you to help with your own children. Fair points, except they're delivered with an undertone that suggests your entire worldview needs restructuring. You adapt. You read the articles she sends. You try to decode what mental load means while carrying the financial load no one mentions anymore. Phase 2 is where the real erosion begins. Every masculine trait becomes problematic. Decisiveness, controlling. Emotional stability, emotionally unavailable. The desire to fix problems, not listening. You start second-guessing every instinct, filtering every response through the committee of modern correctness. She says she wants you to lead, but questions every decision. She wants you to be vulnerable, but loses attraction when you are. You're performing masculinity on a tightrope where one side is toxic and the other is weak. And there's no safety net below. Phase 3? That's when you realize you're not even sure who you're supposed to be anymore. You've bent so far backward accommodating the new rules that you've lost your spine. And here's the cosmic joke, she's lost too. Because while she was fighting for independence, she discovered that independence can be lonely. While she was establishing that she doesn't need you, she forgot why she might want you. The partnership became a power struggle, where both parties are so focused on not losing that nobody wins. Think about this, divorce rates peaked in the 1980s at nearly 50%, right when second-wave feminism hit its stride. Correlation isn't causation, but the timing is hard to ignore. Today, millennials are divorcing less, but that's because they're not marrying at all. Marriage rates have plummeted to historic lows. The institution didn't evolve, it's being abandoned. People aren't finding better ways to be together. They're choosing to be apart. The social media factor makes this exponentially worse. She's comparing your real marriage to everyone else's highlight reel. Every inspirational quote about knowing your worth becomes ammunition in the next argument. Every post about toxic masculinity makes her re-examine your every behavior through a prosecutorial lens. You're not competing with other men anymore. You're competing with an algorithmic fantasy of what modern partnership should look like. A fantasy where someone can be simultaneously traditional and progressive, dominant and deferential, provider and equal partner, all while maintaining perfect abs and emotional availability. Meanwhile, you're scrolling through your own poison, red pill content telling you to reclaim your throne. Alpha male podcasts insisting you've been emasculated. The algorithm feeds you rage, while it feeds her empowerment. And you're both consuming content designed to make you dissatisfied with what you have. The dinner table becomes a DMZ where two propaganda machines face off, each convinced the other is the oppressor. But wait, here's where the real mindfuck happens. Studies from the National Bureau of Economic Research found that in marriages where the wife earns more, both partners report lower satisfaction. Even when she fights for career success, achieves it, celebrates it, something deep in the programming feels off. She might not admit it, might even deny it, but the statistics don't lie. The relationships where traditional roles naturally emerge, even partially, report higher satisfaction. Not because patriarchy works, but because complementary roles reduce friction. When everyone knows their position on the team performs better. The respect collision happens in the bedroom too. Modern feminism preaches sexual liberation, but liberation from what, exactly? From the polarity that creates attraction? She wants to be equal in the boardroom, but dominated in the bedroom. And if you can't navigate that cognitive dissonance without a manual, you're labeled either vanilla or problematic. The same strength that's toxic at dinner becomes essential at midnight. You're supposed to intuit when to be a feminist ally and when to be a caveman. And God help you if you guess wrong. And that's when reality hits. You're lying in bed at 2 a.m., staring at the ceiling, while she sleeps with her back turned. Not because of a fight, but because of the accumulated exhaustion of fighting the current. Every interaction requires calculation. Every gesture needs context. Every word might trigger a conversation about power dynamics. You're not partners anymore. You're negotiators in a peace treaty that never holds. The loneliest part? You can't even talk about it. Suggesting that feminism might have overcorrected makes you a misogynist. Wanting traditional roles makes you backwards. Missing when things were simpler makes you nostalgic for oppression. So you swallow it. You perform the progressive husband routine while something inside you withers. She performs the independent woman routine while something inside her yearns. Both of you trapped in roles that look enlightened on Instagram, but feel hollow at midnight. Here's what many men discover too late. She didn't leave because you weren't enough. She left because the framework made it impossible for anyone to be enough. When every traditional masculine trait is suspicious and every accommodation feels like surrender, you're not in a marriage, you're in a psychological prison where the walls keep moving. The goalposts don't just shift, they teleport. Success becomes impossible when the definition of success changes daily. The phases of decay are predictable now. First, the subtle disrespect, eye rolls at your opinions, corrections in public, your competence questioned, your decisions second-guessed. Then comes the comparison game. Her friend's husband who gets it. The fictional men in her books who somehow balance perfect sensitivity with primal masculinity. Finally, the withdrawal. Sex becomes transactional. Conversation becomes functional. Your roommates with shared finances and scheduled intimacy. What nobody mentions is how feminism changed the breakup dynamics too. No-fault divorce means she can leave because she's unhappy, a standard so subjective it's meaningless. The court system, despite equality rhetoric, still favors mothers in custody battles 80% of the time. Alimony flows one direction. Child support calculations don't care about your emotional contributions. The same system that preaches equality practices selective traditional values when the checks are being written. But here's the truly insidious part. Many women are discovering that liberation isn't liberating. The strong, independent woman narrative sounds empowering until you're 35, successful, alone, and wondering why achievement feels empty. The career you prioritized over relationships doesn't cuddle you at night. The independence you fought for becomes isolation you didn't anticipate. And the men who would have pursued you have either given up or gone their own way, tired of navigating the minefield. The marriage rate among college-educated women has dropped 20% in the last 2 decades. That's not because men are intimidated by successful women. It's because successful women have priced themselves out of their own attraction patterns. She wants someone who makes her feel feminine, but she's eliminated every behavior that triggers that feeling. She wants someone stronger than her, but she's defined strength as oppression. The very success feminism promised becomes the cage that prevents connection. You want to know the real tragedy? Both sides are suffering. Men are checking out, going MGTOW, choosing video games and porn over the impossibility of modern relationships. Women are freezing their eggs, buying dogs, writing articles about where all the good men went. The very movement that promised liberation has created the loneliest generation in history. We're more connected than ever and lonelier than ever because connection requires vulnerability, and vulnerability requires safety, and safety requires stable roles, and stable roles are now considered oppression. Here's where cognitive dissonance reaches its peak. The same women posting "I don't need a man" are the ones crying to their therapists about feeling unseen. The same men trying to be perfect feminist allies are the ones she's losing attraction to. Everyone's performing enlightenment while starving for authenticity. We've created a generation of actors playing roles nobody actually wants to watch. The phases of male awakening follow a pattern too. Phase 1, confusion. You're doing everything right according to the new rules, but it's never enough. Phase 2, resentment. You realize the game is rigged, that equality was never the goal advantage was. Phase 3, withdrawal. You stop trying to win an unwinnable game. You go to work, come home, exist. The marriage becomes a business arrangement where you're the minority shareholder. Then comes the late-night reckoning. Maybe after another sexless month. Maybe after another argument about emotional labor while you're carrying the financial burden alone. Maybe after scrolling through her Instagram and seeing her praise everyone but you. You realize you're not in a partnership. You're in a performance where you play the villain no matter how well you know your lines. That moment, 3 a.m., kitchen light off. Just you and the refrigerator hum. You think about your father, how simple his marriage seemed. Work, provide, protect, appreciated for it, respected for it. You think about your son, what you're modeling for him. How do you prepare him for a world where being a man means apologizing for it? You think about your daughter, whether she'll expect a partner or a servant. The weight of it all crushing. You're not just failing at marriage. You're failing at an impossible standard that changes faster than you can adapt. She's upstairs, sleeping soundly. Tomorrow she'll wake up empowered. You'll wake up exhausted. She'll scroll through motivation. You'll scroll through obligation. She'll talk to friends about your shortcomings. You'll say nothing because male vulnerability is only acceptable in theory. The loneliness isn't just personal, it's existential. You're a man in a world that hasn't figured out what to do with men anymore. And here's the coldest truth many women are starting to realize they've been sold a lie too. The feminist dream of having it all became doing it all. The liberation from traditional roles became isolation from traditional support. The strong, independent woman discovers that strength is exhausting and independence is lonely. But admitting this feels like betrayal to the cause. So the performance continues. The social media feedback loop intensifies everything. Every relationship problem becomes content. Every marital dispute gets crowdsourced to strangers. Privacy dies, and with it, intimacy. You're not working through issues together. You're performing them for an audience that always sides with whoever posted first. The comment section becomes the jury, and public opinion becomes the judge. What's the solution? There isn't one that fits everyone. Some couples find balance by explicitly rejecting modern frameworks, returning to traditional roles by choice rather than obligation. Others create their own hybrid models, taking what works from both worlds. But many too many simply endure, trapped between what society says they should want and what their biology actually craves. The men who thrive in this environment are the ones who stop playing by the rules altogether. Not by becoming assholes, but by becoming authentic. They stop apologizing for masculinity while also evolving beyond its toxic expressions. They lead without dominating, provide without simping, protect without controlling. But this requires a level of self-awareness and confidence that the modern world actively discourages in men. The women who thrive are the ones who admit that equality doesn't mean sameness, who recognize that wanting a strong man doesn't make them weak, who understand that femininity and feminism aren't mutually exclusive. But this requires rejecting a lot of modern messaging that equates any traditional desire with internalized oppression. The real impact of feminism on marriage isn't that it destroyed it. It's that it revealed how fragile the institution always was. When you remove social pressure, economic necessity, and religious obligation, what's left? Just two people trying to love each other in a world that profits from their dissatisfaction. The wedding industry sells you the fantasy. The divorce industry profits from the reality. The therapy industry maintains the limbo in between. But here's what cuts deepest. We all know something's broken. Men know it. Women know it. The statistics scream it. The loneliness epidemic proves it. But we're so invested in our ideological positions that we'd rather be right than happy. We'd rather win the argument than save the marriage. We'd rather prove our point than find our peace. The modern marriage has become a battlefield where victory means both parties lose, where equality means nobody's satisfied, where liberation means nobody's connected. We've gained rights and lost relationships. We've gained options and lost stability. We've gained independence and lost interdependence. You're watching this because you feel it, that gnawing sense that something fundamental has shifted, that the game you're playing can't be won, that the rules keep changing because the house always wins. And the house is a culture that profits from your confusion. You're not crazy. You're not alone. You're just awake in a world that prefers you sleeping. The truth is, feminism didn't kill marriage. It revealed that modern marriage is incompatible with human nature. We're trying to force-fit evolutionary psychology into ideological frameworks. We're asking biology to bow to sociology. We're expecting millions of years of programming to update because of a few decades of theory. The collision isn't between roles and respect. It's between reality and rhetoric. And maybe that's the ultimate red pill. Not that women are the enemy or that feminism is evil, but that we've all been sold a version of relationships that doesn't actually work for anyone. Men aren't happy. Women aren't happy. Children are growing up in broken homes or no homes at all. The birth rate is plummeting. The marriage rate is crashing. The loneliness epidemic is exploding. At some point, we have to ask, if everyone's losing, who's winning? The answer is uncomfortable. The system wins. The machine that needs you dissatisfied to keep consuming. The algorithm that needs you angry to keep scrolling. The ideology that needs you fighting to stay relevant. Your misery is someone else's profit margin. Your confusion is someone else's control. Your broken marriage is someone else's business model. So what do you do with this knowledge? You can't change society. You can't reverse feminism. You can't make everyone else wake up. But you can stop playing a game where the rules guarantee your failure. You can stop apologizing for who you are while also growing into who you could be. You can stop seeking approval from a culture that profits from your inadequacy. The impact of feminism on marriage is real, measurable, and probably irreversible. But your response to it doesn't have to be. You can choose authenticity over performance. You can choose peace over points. You can choose connection over correctness. But first, you have to admit that the framework you've been operating in was designed to fail. Because here's the final truth that nobody wants to hear. The collision between roles and respect isn't a bug in the system. It's a feature. A stable, happy population doesn't consume enough. Satisfied people don't scroll enough. Connected couples don't generate enough content. Your happiness is bad for business, and business is very, very good. The real revolution isn't men versus women or traditional versus modern. It's recognizing that we're all prisoners in the same experiment, test subjects in a social laboratory where the hypothesis keeps changing, but the suffering remains constant. The question isn't whether feminism impacted marriage. The question is whether marriage, as we've reimagined it, is even possible. And if you're honest, brutally, coldly honest, you already know the answer. The modern marriage didn't fail because people stopped loving each other. It failed because we turned love into a negotiation where everyone loses.